The zone. That's just a great way to start your Friday morning right there.
Mm-hmm. I don't even know this, but it sounds like I will listen to it, okay? I know that delights Brent right there. Listen.
Ramon Foster, Will Bowling with you. Kayla Anderson with the morning off. Brent Hubbs, what's going on?
Ramon, every time I have hope, Ramon, every time I have hope, you just crush my dreams, man.
You know I'm not trying to do this on a Friday to you, Hub.
You just crush. We're making so much progress, and then you come back with that drop coming in that you think I like it, but I have no idea what it is.
I'm telling you, if you invite me to a restaurant, a fire pit that you have lit up, I mean, a back porch seat, a swing, I'm going to sit there and listen and rock out with you. And I'm probably going to do the same thing, Hubs. I'm going to be like, hey, whose song is this? I might even download it, okay? I just need you to know I don't know, and I don't want to fake it with you. That's all.
Okay. I appreciate your honesty this morning. It's only Alabama, one of the best bands in country music history. They've only played for concerts for like 45 years or something. That's okay.
See, that's where
I'm good.
They wrote a little tune about driving through Granger County, also called Dixieland Delight, that you heard after a certain Tennessee win a couple of years ago. But I
do remember that, but that's where you would have also lost me. I'd have passed on the name of that group. Like, there's no group called Tennessee.
You're ridiculous. VolQuest Brent Hubbs with us as he is every Friday here on RKW. Brent, a little bit of Titans and Vols overlap yesterday. Before we get to the latest on Tennessee and Virginia versus the NCAA, Bo Hardigree's reportedly headed here to be the quarterbacks coach of the Tennessee Titans. What do you remember about him, Ramon Foster's former teammate from Jackson Central Mary?
Bo was a guy that I think always wanted to be a coach, and his dad was a coach. And I think that, he was always trying to learn as much as he could to be a coach and move forward. I mean, he obviously didn't play significant snaps at Tennessee, came in as a teammate of Daniel Brooks's, and that was the tie there. And Bo has gone on and just done really, really well, spending some time in the college ranks, and has been really successful in the NFL, and did a nice job with the Raiders at the end of the year this past year. And I think it's a good thing for Will Levis, and I know Bo's excited to be back in the state of Tennessee. So happy for him and wish him the best of luck there. But that's a guy who you always kind of knew that coaching was in his blood because of his family, and a guy who was looking to be a coach.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest with us this morning. Brent, Tuesday next week, the big day as Tennessee is in court in Greenville against the NCAA, seeking an injunction based on violation of antitrust laws. How do people around campus feel about what is coming up Tuesday and the denial of the temporary restraining order earlier this week?
Yeah, I don't think the denial of the temporary restraining order was just a major blow against the state of Tennessee's case with the NCAA. I don't think anybody is like, that's a precursor for bad things, or particularly when you read the judgment ruling by the judge in that case. So, I think Tennessee, the state of Tennessee, the Attorney General's office feels good about where they are. I think the University of Tennessee likes, where things stand right now. And, we'll see what happens on Tuesday. And it specifically for Tennessee, the University of Tennessee, and this current case, I mean, what does that mean moving forward if the injunction is granted? And, is this one of those things where the NCAA is going to back off and not pursue with a notice of allegations? Will they come back with a notice of allegations in the coming weeks and month, or what do they do after Tuesday's court thing? I think that's what all Tennessee fans, ball fans want to know, and I don't know the answer to that. That'll be the storyline to watch coming out of Tuesday if the Attorney General does win the injunction against the NCAA.
So coming back from break, Will was breaking down the song to me behind the meaning of it, Hubs, when it was just like, hey, this is what the song meant that we were listening to that had Post Malone on it, okay? So I need for you, if you would, because I still get these questions.
Musical education does not ever end on the show, Brent.
Yeah, okay.
Hip-hop, R&B, and blues is my specialty, okay? Hip-hop, R&B, and blues. So when it comes down to music, that's my box right there, okay? But when it comes down to these allegations with the NCAA and Tennessee, I still have Tennessee fans asking me, what does this mean? Brent, if you could just real quick for the ones who are listening, I tried to explain to somebody last night. It's like Tennessee trying to force laws in Denver that they have. if you could, what does this mean for Tennessee to kind of ease over the fan base into what this actually means and what the NCAA is trying to do?
You know, we talked about this, I think, last week. I mean, the NCAA is trying to go after specific cases with NIL, and that's kind of been their play over the course of the last year or so, is saying that they're going to go after specific collectives, specific schools and their NIL practices. What the Attorney General is saying is filing an injunction to say that's not. Let me back up. The NCAA is saying the NIL practices are bad because there's discussion about money before a prospect arrives or signs on campus. So they're saying that's an inducement, is what the NCAA is trying to say. The Attorney General is saying that's an antitrust violation because basically who takes a job and doesn't know what their salary is going to be? Okay? And that's the real bottom layer, peel all the onion back. Right now, there's an argument, I'm sure, from the NCAA standpoint of they're not employees, but again, who takes a job and doesn't know what the financial, that they can't ask the financial question, or they can't have a discussion about the financial question. That's the crux of where we are right now. And they're saying that the NCAA, if you restrict that, is violating antitrust laws. That's the way I understand it. I'm not a lawyer. I couldn't even play the Joe Pesci character on My Cousin Vinny, who didn't know anything about law either. So that's kind of how it's explained to me, Ramon, in the simplest terms. But again, I think the biggest question Tennessee Vol fans have is, okay, what happens after Tuesday? What does that mean for Nico? What does that mean for this season? What does that mean for an investigation and a notice of allegations? And we don't know exactly, but that's what the storyline will shift to on Tuesday if the Attorney General wins the injunction.
Yeah, and I guess that's also the side of is Tennessee was just next up, I think, is how you have to view that, because you have certain universities that are openly talking about NIL and signings. You have Ohio State announcing from the NIL that we got our guy. And you even had, just as soon as yesterday or the day before, a Tulsa coach negotiating, it seemed like through text messages, with the recruit about trying to get $6,000 to $7,000 a month from Tulsa. Imagine that, Brent. Is it just Tennessee was just next up? This ain't hey, this is a problem against you guys. We were just next.
No, I think this is the Nico effect. I think because Nico was the first one that his recruitment, the NIL deal was talked about in pretty specific details by some people around his camp. It was the first big one. It raised eyebrows with everybody around the country. It raised eyebrows with the NCAA. It raised eyebrows with the conference office. Everybody was like, whoa, wait a minute now. This was the first one that said the toothpaste is out of the tube, right? Because there was other deals. Okay, this guy might get a commercial, might sponsor this, that, other. And wait a minute, they're going to pay, this guy's going to make 7 figures? Like, what are we doing here? And I think because it was so public, because it was talked about, because the Spire Collective was pretty vocal early on about their about how strong they were and how much money and their involvement and all those types of things, I think it was just a red flag that the NCAA wanted to throw up and say, whoa, wait a minute, we're going to go after that. And it was high profile, and I think the NCAA thought they could use that as an example. Of course, Tennessee was in the middle of finishing up another investigation at the time, which was a repeat offender status, those types of things with the NCAA. So that's why this one was in the crosshairs. Now, what's interesting is the NCAA is allegedly investigating 12 to 20 schools for and collectives with NIL concerns, worries, allegations, whatever. I don't know that any of them are basketball.
Wow.
We all know that NIL is involved in basketball. Okay, that we all know that, right? But the NCAA makes a couple $1 billion a year off of college basketball. That doesn't seem to be a whole lot of talk about and a whole lot of disdain with the NCAA about basketball NIL practices. It's all to this point been football, football, football. Now, football generates the most publicity. I get that. But I do find it a little bit interesting that the whole focus appears to be football at this point and not basketball. There may be some basketball stuff in there along the way, but, basketball has been in the cross. I mean, people have been talking about shoe companies and basketball for 3 or 4 decades, basically. It's interesting that this seems to be around football NIL more than anything else right now with the NCAA, which I find a little bit unique.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest on 3 with us this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Brent, where does Greg Sankey fit into all of this? I know he had an interview on Feinbaum, and there's a lot has been made about the alliance with the SEC and the Big Ten and what that could mean moving forward. But how closely do you think Greg Sankey will be watching Tuesday, and at what point would he get a little bit more involved in this case, do you think?
Well, I mean, he's been in the loop on what Tennessee was doing, I'm sure, the whole time because of the relationship that Greg Sankey and Donde Plowman have, and Danny White, for that matter, with Greg Sankey as well. So I think that he was not caught off guard by the Attorney General. That I don't think that surprised him. I don't think the letter that Donde Plowman sent to NCAA President Baker surprised him. I think his stance has been pretty clear, and it's kind of what we talked a little bit about last week. He is looking for the NCAA and wants some leadership with the NCAA, which is why this, advisory group has been put together between the Big Ten and the SEC. Forward thinking, big picture thinking. Let's not worry about specific cases. Okay, let's look ahead, because I hate to keep using the phrase, you're not putting that toothpaste back in the tube. NIL's not going away. There's some people at the NCAA level that, they want to go back and want it to be like it was in 1995. Those days are over. They're not coming back, right? Just like there's some people that don't like people whose teams wearing alternative uniforms, right?
Right.
You should only wear the tradition. Those days are over. Like, you got to get over that and move forward. And I think some people with the NCAA have to change their mindset. And I think that's what Greg Sankey is saying. If you look at the comments he's made when he's been asked about Tennessee or things, he said, listen, you can't worry about specific cases and going back and basically trying those cases. We have got to focus on the bigger picture things. And that is to prevent every state from suing because their laws are all different. What are you going to do about, if it becomes employees, what are you going to do about the labor laws? Because every state's labor laws are different, right? Like, what is the plan moving forward so that we can protect the game and protect college athletics? And I think that's where Greg Sankey's at. I think the frustration that a lot of people have right now is that the NCAA said, hey, we're going to go back and we're going to try to hammer some collectives over their practices the last 2.5 years. And I guess some people in the NCAA thought that would slow some collectives down because it would make them nervous, or it would scare them into backing off or not being as aggressive. Well, that's foolish. I mean, Florida State just got punished, right? They've got an offensive coordinator that's going to miss 3 games, I think is what his punishment was. They had to disassociate from a booster. But if you read the fine lines and all that stuff, it never says that Florida State athletes can't negotiate with that collective. Do we really think that NIL is not in place at Florida State because of what the NCAA did a month ago in punishment? That all of a sudden Florida State said, oh, no, they said we can't do it. We're not going to do it. So we're going to get beat by all of our rivals who have NIL in place, and we're going to lose out on recruiting because they told us we couldn't, or they said don't do that or that's bad practice. No. I mean, it's ongoing, and that's Greg Sankey's point. You're not going to get this thing settled down by punishing what people have done the last 2.5 years or 18 months.
Right.
You've got to get this thing under control moving forward, and that's where Sankey and the Big Ten are trying to take this thing to, because they're the two power conferences who have the most money, who are the most active in this world, and that needs direction, and they're trying to help the NCAA with some direction.
Brent, it's been fun following along with VolQuest's tour of the state of North Carolina. Of course, coveted offensive tackle David Sanders, a part of that. I know Austin was able to catch up with him. Monroe, North Carolina's Jordan Young, a guy who's been talking with Brentwood Academy's George McIntyre a lot. What have you guys learned from canvassing the Carolinas? And first and foremost, where does Tennessee stand, you think, with the big-time tackle David Sanders at the moment?
Well, right now, I think with David Sanders, Tennessee, Clemson, Georgia, it's kind of the big three right now. They've got to get him back on campus. He's scheduled to be here in March, and George McIntyre will be here. George is working that one really hard. I think Tennessee's done a good job with David Sanders. If you watch Austin's interview, David Sanders knows a lot more about Tennessee than just, hey, they've won some games, or hey, the stadium's big, or hey, I like their colors. I mean, he's got in-depth knowledge about Tennessee. He's done a lot of research on them. Tennessee's really worked that relationship hard. George is working that relationship hard. He is a big-time talent for sure. I think the big takeaway from the state of North Carolina is, as it's always been the case, there's talent there. I think Tennessee's done a good job in establishing some relationships with these guys in the 25 and 26 class. And I think North Carolina is a good place to go right now, because we don't know how much longer Mike Brown is going to be the coach at North Carolina. Duke's got a new coach. Dave Dorn at NC State has come out and said on multiple occasions, hey, I need money. We don't have enough, NIL funding. So can you go in and get some prospects that way as well? Clemson's not played in the NIL world, even though they've gone up to North Carolina through the years and been successful with Dabo Swinney. So I think it's a good place to go. I mean, the one thing that Philip Fulmer did a great job when he was head coach is his footprint in recruiting was like an amoeba, and it kind of just morphed into where things were, where openings were. He did a really good job of that. All right, South Carolina, Clemson are down. Let's go work South Carolina. LSU's not very good. We'll go work Louisiana. Georgia was down. We've got a Georgia tie with Rodney Garner. Let's work there. And obviously had the state of Tennessee. When you look at where it's at right now, Georgia's a hard nut to crack. Now, there's a lot of really good players down there, but Georgia can come in and get basically whoever they want in state, right? Alabama's always been that way. Ole Miss is doing a good job in the state of Mississippi. LSU is getting who they want in Louisiana. So where do you shift to a little bit? Well, North Carolina and Virginia are two places you can go. And I think you're seeing Tennessee be more active and more aggressive in those two states. And I think it's a smart move in Tennessee's recruiting footprint, and it starts in North Carolina where there's some good players. They've had some success in Virginia the last couple of years. I look for them to be pretty active in the state of Virginia as well.
Brent Hubbs of VolQuest is our guest every Friday here at 7:20 on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Great info as always. Check out VolQuest's War Room every Friday morning. Brent, we appreciate it, and I will continue educating the big man on my left about good music.
Well, I tell you what, I've not been this nervous in an interview for a while, because when he started going down the hip-hop blues world, I thought he was getting ready to put me on the spot and ask me some questions, and I was like, this is not going to end well for me, because, I can go some naughty by nature if you want to, Ramon, but I don't know some of this latter stuff here, so. Thanks for not putting me on the spot, my man. I appreciate it.
So I guess you are down with OPP, huh?
Absolutely.
Other people's prospects. Let's go. Keep recruiting, Brent.
There you go. Well played. Well played. Have a great weekend, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Brent. Appreciate it. There he is, VolQuest Brent Hubbs. We'll react to some of that coming up next. Take a look at a busy weekend at SEC hoops as well starting tomorrow.